what we're doing is we're doing an amateur show. This is a regular thing. This is not a one-off. We are now going to have a separate show from Cooksey and the Coach. This is amateur racing with Cooksey and the Coach. We're going to try and put out one a month. We'll do more if we feel like it, if there's an event, if there's something going on, if there's news breaks that we just have to cover. But we don't want to oversaturate it. We want to cover the things that need to be covered. We're going to do a preview for Loretta Lynn's because it's obviously the pinnacle of amateur racing. And we're also going to do a post afterward talking about how it went. And you guys know I'm big on breaking down how does a racer go from a child to a pro? And I want to know how the system works, who our future stars are. And I'm also going to poke some holes in it because I don't like a lot of the things that we see. But also I want to recognize how badass it is. I love it. I've been to the ranch myself, and just every single time I watch it, I remember the smells and the things, and just it's a pretty euphoric feeling.
Yeah, it's like you said, I mean, it is the granddaddy of granddaddies. And, you know, I appreciate you being open to doing this format. I know you and I have talked about it for a while, kind of the pros and the cons and the right way to roll it out. For the listeners that may or may not know, I've been very, very passionate about an amateur development program within our sport. I feel like it's been something that's needed for a very long period of time. But I hope our listeners at this point realize you and I are not the type of people that just like to, you know, shed light on the issues. Let's come up with a tentative solution or suggestions on solutions. I've had an amateur develop.
You mean we shouldn't just bitch and not say anything on how it should be fixed?
I think there's enough people doing that. I think there's enough people doing that already, don't you? So what we did was we earmark a certain amount of money every year, and we have two amateur development programs here in the States, and then we have one in Australia and New Zealand. And, you know, I do want to kind of do a little bit of a bunny trail here for a moment. I do want to give a shout out to our Australian riders, our team manager, Tim Lawler, his son, Richie Lawler. They were supposed to be here the last 2 years. And between the travel restrictions and now the new lockdowns, we have Soren Staudinger. I apologize for boffing that up. He's a factory Cowie rider out of New Zealand. He's somebody else that we hope to have here. Brock Ninus, a couple of the girls, Brooke, and we had so many people that we thought were going to come over from Australia and New Zealand. And, you know, my thoughts and prayers are with them because I know they're frustrated that they wanted to be here for this race. But Tim Lawler's done a great job, and we're going to continue to work on getting them here. We're going to talk about the 250B class. One of the riders that I worked with when he was on 65s, Brad West, is riding for Factory Cowie. He's getting a lot of help from Mitch, and he's on the Team Green. But to your point, though, you know, we're very vested in the amateur side of things for this exact reason. And I appreciate you being open-minded to doing a monthly show. I think it's going to be great. We're going to give some insight to our riders. I want our riders to become tangible to our listeners, but we're going to take each one of these classes. We're not going to belabor it, but we're going to get into the meat and bones of, you know, the meat on the bone rather of what are we getting ready to look at? You know, I know it sounds a little cliche-ish, but we're essentially looking at the future of our sport. It wasn't that long ago. Think about this. You remember the year pro sport class, you had Trey Kennard, Nico Izzy. I mean, that Kyle Chisholm was in there, Stroop was in there, and they all, you know, they already had factory deals. Think about that year of the pro sport, and we're going to talk a little bit about it tonight. I believe our pro sport class, you're looking at literally that next. I shouldn't say never. In the last 5 to 6 years, I haven't seen the depth of the pro sport class with those guys that we're going to be seeing at the Outdoor Nationals. Obviously, with the rule change, we've seen a few of them, Levi Kitchen, some of those guys. We've already seen them, but it's going to be spectacular to watch it this next week.
And we'll go into it a little bit further, but that rule change for me has made that class premiere again. Before that, they were holding guys back, and they were like, I mean, Garrett Marchbanks went pro out of the B class. So yeah. But before we get into this, I want to talk about our friend and our first guest ever on Cooksey and Coach, Connor Fields. Yes. He's a BMX rider. If you guys don't know, he was in Tokyo racing and going for his second gold medal is what it would have been if he had completed it. In the third heat, he was cross jumped. It was a racing incident. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm pissed because when it's your guy and he gets taken out, and it's, even if it's a racing incident, you're still kind of pissed. It was aggressive, but Connor also rides aggressive. I'm sure everyone would say it was there. I don't think it was intentional. The guy in no way wanted to take Connor out and have him hurt this bad.
Yeah.
Connor hit his head. He went to the doctor. They cleared him for spinal injuries and major stuff, but he did have some brain bleeding. The brain bleeding has subsided, and he moved him out of what they call it, the critical unit. So he's back on his road to recovery, but it's a serious injury. And we send our best out to Connor Fields. For those that don't know him, he will be around our sport quite a bit. I don't think it's our place to announce what he's up to next, but I can say this: he's probably going to be bigger post-career. And I even told him before he won his gold medal, I told him, I was like, dude, you're probably going to be bigger post-career than you will be career, because he has the charisma and everything, and whatever he decides to do, he'll be extremely successful. But it was heartbreaking to see it end the way it did, but I'm glad that he's on his road to recovery, and just want to send our best wishes to Connor Fields.
Yeah, absolutely. For the listeners, this is his third consecutive Olympics, seventh the first year, won the gold last year. That was the third qualifier of the semis. He was definitely going to the main. The first race, he looked like he was shaking the track down a little bit, and he was definitely on his game. Obviously, we'll never know, right? But he did have a brain hemorrhage. I want everybody to understand it. We're not just saying he's out of the doctor's office and he's, sitting there watching trackside. He did have a brain hemorrhage. He is out of ICU. He's, been moved out of that ward. Thank goodness. Michaela and I were talking about this. What kills me is, can you imagine being in nothing against Tokyo, but the language barrier, the food barrier, and I've got a picture I can share with you, Chris, that it started to circulate more and more. And obviously you can put it up on the snippet that you do here. He looks rough, bless his heart. He looks like he's got a big gash on his head with a big bandage there, and he's trying to do 2 thumbs up. But as you said, as charismatic and dynamic of a personality, you can tell he's trying to muster up the best he's got for the photo. But my thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. I don't know the magnitude of the injury. I don't know if there's anything long-term, but like you say, for the listeners, please keep him in your thoughts and prayers, because he's going to need it. I don't know when he'll be able to fly back, because obviously we're dealing with a head injury, like you say, but I do agree with you on that. Definitely a big blow, but it definitely won't be the last time we see and hear from Connor Fields.
Nope. And then you dropped some huge news on us. We're going to have to switch gears a little bit. Like I said, that one's tough for both of us, because he's a good friend of ours. I was shocked when you told me this. Hayden Deegan, speaking of amateurs, and we talk about these teams coming in and signing guys and poaching guys. And I don't know if this is necessarily classified as a poach, but Hayden Deegan has been part of the KTM program and looked to be groomed to come up on one of the KTM brands, call them Gas, Husqvarna, something like that. I guess he's going Yamaha. Star Yamaha has signed the Super Mini Prodigy away, and he'll be skipping 125s and going right to 250s next year, Coach.
Yeah, that's my understanding. We'll be getting a big, obviously nothing Deegan does is ever small scale. But he's on his way to Star Yamaha, and it'll be interesting because there's going to be a couple new dynamics. Hymas is leaving Kawasaki and he's going to Honda. So again, that's already a done deal as well. So like you say, you look at the money that was spent by KTM with Deegan, you look at the money at Cowie. There's going to be some musical chairs that are going to be taking place here after Loretta's. So it'll be interesting to see not only how the race at Loretta's transpires, because as we've all talked about, what's going on, knowing that Tomac's not going to be there all season long. What's the personality, the dynamic, the tension? What is that looking like over at Loretta's this year?
Hold on. Wait, you can't just skip over this Chance Hymas deal.
Yeah.
I thought for sure he was one of the PC guys are coming into that. So what Honda team is he going to? Is he going to factory Honda?
That's what I haven't heard yet. I can't imagine he would be going anywhere else considering he's on factory Cowie right now.
Yeah.
So it makes us wonder, is Honda going to be adding another dynamic? How are they going to branch that out? We know that there's no vacancies on the 450 side. So I would think that they'd be going to a 3-man team here. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. And again, at Loretta's, I can't imagine what the tension is going to be like. If you're a Team Green mechanic, personnel, what is the tension underneath the tent there? Reminds me a lot when Styles Robertson was leaving to go to Husky, and he was on his final Cowie ride there. And, we can talk about why Robertson left Cowie in the first place, but yeah, lot of dynamics going on. We're going to get into some of the classes and the riders, with Ryder D and Jet and those guys. So it's going to be very interesting.
Okay, we're going to jump into your factory team, but first I got to have one more thing on the Hayden Deegan. I don't understand. Look at Jarrett Fry. Was that a good move to leave Suzuki and go to Star because Star is the best bike? Now he's been on the best bike, hasn't done really well. He'll probably never get another chance. Yet you take Schwartz, who went up on the Suzuki and has been battling his way all the way up. I'm sorry, but this is a bad move by the Deegans, and they don't make very many bad moves. But in my mind, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I think this is a bad direction, and I wouldn't go that way if I was them.
Well, the first thing that I was a little cautious about is I'd heard it was rumored. I've heard it rumored now for about a year. I honestly thought it would have if it was going to happen, I would have thought it would have happened in another year from now, maybe allow a transition into the 125, because we've seen Hayden on the 125 and obviously he rips, but I would have thought that would be more of a transitional. Now, unless something crazy happens other than what I've heard, and I've heard it from a couple reliable sources, it's already a signed and delivered deal. So, but if that's going to happen, what I'm hearing is that he is going to skip the 125. He is going to go straight to the B class next year. And then the next year would be the A class and then go right out into the pros. I don't know. I think that's a pretty big gap, even though Deegan's a heck of a rider. Just seems like that's a pretty large gap. And again, listeners could say, yeah, but AC did it. But how'd that work out? Didn't seem to go too well when we started running into injuries and fatigue and factory bike. Deegan's on a factory bike, but you get the gist.